Hi, y'all. This is Tara Pohlmeyer with Progress, Texas, and I'm here with Alisa Simmons, who is running for HD 94 up in Tarrant County. Alisa, how are you today?
I'm good, Tara. How are you?
I'm doing well, staying safe, staying healthy. During, COVID-19 and during this campaign, what has been keeping you grounded? What is keeping you going right now?
I am always grounded. Um, I don't know. I think this is what I believe. I believe COVID was somewhat of a blessing because if anybody is like me, um, I was blowing and going and this meeting and that meeting, and that's just my life. And so this has slowed things down somewhat. And now with Zoom, everything is picked back up. So I'm Zooming all day at this point to do my volunteer work and to do work.
Absolutely. And, you're running for Texas House District 94. What drove you to that decision? I know you've been involved in your community for a very long time. What made you decide that 2020 is the year?
Well, I am running because I've been a community problem solver all of my adult life. I like to help people. I cannot see and not attempt to fix it. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. Um, I have helped countless individuals throughout Arlington and Tarrant County, and supported the city, the school district in broad community initiatives that were successful. So I think it's time to take that experience to Austin and see if I can be a benefit to more Texans than just here in my footprint. And with the climate, political climate in these United States, with the president we have and his um, falling favorability. Um, and same for those of his ilk. This seemed like a good time to give this a try. It's a lot. It's daunting. I'm like, what were you thinking? But I'm in it.
Absolutely. What are some of the things, as you talk to community members now over Zoom during COVID-19, what are some of the needs that Tarrant County folks have right now?
Um, you know, Basically, they're the same needs as most Texans have, especially in this COVID environment. Um, they need leadership who cares about them. And when I say cares about them, cares about healthcare, public education, um, property taxes. That's what folks here are telling me. Those are the things that they're concerned about, and so I am interested in helping solve issues surrounding those topics.
That sounds amazing. And kind of diving into a few of those things right now that folks are needing, we know that so many Texans across the state have lost access to healthcare because of loss of unemployment or loss of employment or something similar during COVID-19. What can state officials do right now to help Texans when it comes to healthcare?
Well, first of all, they could expand Medicaid. That's what they could do. And with regard to COVID, if our governor and lieutenant governor would pay attention and listen to medical experts, the scientists, we probably would not be in this predicament that we find ourselves in today. Um, I would I would venture to say that I would tell you that the governor opened the state up a little bit too soon. He even followed his own schedule. So now look at what we're faced with. So if our leadership would listen, pay attention to the medical experts, the data, and not necessarily uh, the president, I think we would be in a better position.
100%. And we've seen, our GOP officials at the top levels of the state really mislead Texans and mismanage this pandemic. The Houston Chronicle came out with an editorial board story today that basically said, Texans have died because Governor Abbott refused to listen to the advice of medical professionals earlier on. What else needs to be done? We have a statewide mask mandate right now, but some sheriffs in the different counties are refusing to enforce it. What else needs to be done to make sure that Texans can weather this pandemic?
If I think if there was a coherent message coming from the governor's office, from the state, that would be helpful. But I think the best thing to do, and you see it being done, is to let local officials manage their communities. Of course, it would be much better if the governor would say, okay, everybody wears a mask. He had to be beaten into doing that, and then going back and lowering the standards for the exposure, the opening up of the state. And, maybe time to call a special session if he can't figure it out himself and get lawmakers back in to help him figure it out.
Absolutely. And, with calls of a special session, with other things, there have been other calls for a special session regarding police violence in our state and the systemic racism that we face. I know you are incredibly involved with the NAACP up there, and I'm curious how the local communities in Arlington and in Tarrant County are grappling with what we have seen recently with the death of George Floyd and the murder of George Floyd, and what are some solutions you see to ending police violence?
So what happened to Mr. Floyd was horrific. On MSNBC a couple of nights ago, when the transcript was released from the dash cam or body cam video, the commentator read the verbal conversation or transaction word for word. And I was, on my phone checking email, but as he read the words that Mr. Floyd uttered, him begging for help, I put my phone down to listen to him read the rest of that transcript, and absolutely horrific. I tell people that the murder of George Floyd did not move me any more than the murders of 4 African American men here in Arlington. Arlington police have killed 4 Black men in the past 5 years unjustly, and they were unarmed. So I've been fighting this battle here locally, during that time. They have also killed a Hispanic gentleman, unarmed, unjust, and a white female as well. And my NAACP here in Arlington, we have represented and supported and advocated for 5 of the 6 of those. Margarita Brooks is the Anglo female, and she was killed in August of 2019. And so then the 4 black men before her. So we have been fighting this fight for a long time. I've learned a lot. When I took over 8-9 years ago as president, I just thought I was going to be leading an organization of civil rights activists, and we would educate people about social justice. But it's been a tremendous amount of heartbreaking work. And so I can tell you a lot of things that need to be done. Transparency, community policing, these departments taking a look at President Obama's 21st Century Policing program. There are a lot of things that can be done. But one thing that struck me, just a few years ago, was the power of the district attorney. The district attorney holds so much power, and they have a very close relationship with police. They're both law enforcement. And so what we've experienced in the 5 cases that we have supported here is, the withholding of the release of body cam and dash cam video. And so, they in this community, on average, they hold it about 8 months. And so that's anguishing for families. It's not really fair to the community who wants to know what happened in a case. And the DA, it's her philosophy, because it's certainly not anything that's mandated by law. The DA decides she does not want to release video footage until after the grand jury comes back. So, we would spend more than 30 minutes on talking about policing and what needs to change. I've got several pieces of legislation I'm interested in introducing. I've got my law enforcement experts taking a look at it for me before I put it out there. But one thing we're doing here, the NAACP and other community groups, we have an opportunity to. There's a new chief will be hired by the city of Arlington, city manager, and because of our relationship, he has been open and us to participate in that process and to give him input and give him our ideas and even candidates for the chief's position. We'll be serving on community boards, the community panel that will interview the chief, and we've made a number of suggestions that the city manager has embraced. And so that has been a very involved process. And I tell people that, people are kind of amazed that, oh, you asked for that and you got it. You asked for that and you got it. And yes, because it's, part of a relationship. And the other part is you got to tell people in power what your expectations are. And so that's what I do. That's, and they listen. That's the kind of leader I am. I listen, and the type of legislator I will be once elected and replace my opponent in Austin.
I mean, that is so heartening and just like a testament to your leadership that you have been advocating for change for decades up there. And I think you would be a welcome addition in Austin as well. I know as Progress Texas, we've looked into the issue with DAs as well and found that out of over 100 killings by Texas cops in 2019, only 2 ended in charges from a DA. And so we've looked at like what are other ways that we can hold DAs accountable, and right now it seems like elections are the way to go when it comes to, you know, making sure that DAs check their bias when it comes to these cases.
Oh yeah, they're supremely powerful, and you know the community needs to understand. That's one thing we preach and post and tweet about that, about the power that DAs have. You have got it's an elected position. These people are the elected district attorney, and so people need to know they can go and remove that person. I think a lot of folks don't understand that about the position of district attorney. But yes, elections, that's the way to get them out, vote them out, and get somebody in there that will listen to the people.
100%. And I want to ask folks, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment them either on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll get to them. I know Christy is ready to volunteer, so you have a new, hopefully, volunteer for your campaign. I want to shift
Hey, Christy.
a little bit to talking about your entrepreneurship, and as a small business owner and starter, like, what do you think needs to be done to help our small businesses right now during this pandemic?
Whew. So I own a promotional products business. Think ink pens and Yetis and T-shirts and banners and all of that. And so I have owned my business 5 years. This July, I purchased it from the existing owner. I used to be her customer at my previous employer, and so I've been doing it 5 years, and been well, fairly successful. Kind of surprised myself because I'm like, oh, I can't sell anything. But COVID hit, and just like every other business, from the largest to the smallest, I was impacted. So all the customers I have, all of the clients, nobody is ordering swag. And so it has been impactful. I I applied for the one of the SBA loans, the EIDL, and I did get the advance for on the EIDL. And that's all I asked for. But you know, business is coming back. Thank goodness. So my clients are calling and requesting quotes, and orders are starting to come back in. But the PPP, the EIDL, the SBA loans were fabulous for the folks that could get them. And there were many folks that applied, especially small businesses. You'll recall at the beginning, the first round of the PPP program, small businesses were just kind of left out in the cold, and that's why they had to come back and do a second round. And we heard about that as an NAACP, and I heard about that as a candidate for state office. And so, you know, I just went to work trying to get people the information and the access they needed to get those funds that were offered and given to larger companies. So, but yes, as a small business owner, I was certainly impacted, and thanking God that business is picking up again.
That is amazing news. And I know it's not that way for a lot of small businesses, and I'm sure some businesses in Arlington and in Tarrant County as well. What are some of the things that you would hope to do if elected in 2021 during the legislative session that would help some of these businesses?
Would certainly love to take a look at the historically underutilized business program, the state's hub program. I've been a certified hub 5 years that I've been in business. It is a cumbersome process. Small businesses, I've not talked to one that has been successful in getting state contracts or work through the state. Even they've been a hub for even longer than I have. So something about the hub program is is not inclusive. It's not right, and so just that is but one thing I'd like to take a look at once I make it to the legislature.
That is some great insight. And I want to transition. Andrea has asked us a question here in the comments, and she would like us to tell us about your opponent and why you would make a better choice for state legislature.
Okay. Mr. Tenderholt, who I met for the first time, I think in February. Now, I have been very involved and engaged in every aspect of this community for 35 years. And I've never seen my opponent anywhere at anything, chamber meeting, anything. So I did run into him in February. Uh, he supports extreme right-wing politics. He's very divisive. And some of you may remember him as the legislator that introduced the bill that called for the death penalty for women who have abortions. Now, you know, people have their opinions about abortion, but the death penalty, and I tell people, I said he's extreme. I think he's more extreme than the president of the United States, but I don't know that he's accessible. He was asked about his accessibility at one of the redistricting hearings, and he made excuses. He has introduced so much troubling legislation that is not helpful to his constituents or Texans. And so I'm telling you, I think you need people to be in leadership positions that have a heart for people, for all people, not just Republicans, not just Democrats, not just libertarians or independents, that care about the community as a whole. I think part of the reason for my success as a leader here in Arlington is because it doesn't matter who it is. I work with them, and that is for the benefit of Arlington, not just for this race or this constituency. But if the city or the school district or the community college district or UTA, if they do right by this constituency, it makes them look good. And so I have advocated, fought, fussed, cussed, and been real nice about it most of the time on a number of issues, not just policing, economic development. City of Arlington has built an entertainment complex, a $300 million entertainment complex, a $1 billion stadium. And I fought for African American businesses to get work on those projects, but I also fought for local businesses, Arlington-based businesses, no matter the ethnicity of the owner, because when local-based businesses are included and get opportunities, that makes for a better Arlington. When African American and Hispanic firms get an opportunity, that makes for a better Arlington. And so I'm I'm open and always wanting and willing to work across the aisle, so to say. Um, in municipal government, they say there's no Republican, no Democrat, but there are conservative and establishment folks who are used to running the city or the school district or whatever the way they want to. And so it just takes folks to step up and say, hey, you need to listen to others. And that's what I do. They can ignore me, and that doesn't end in a good result, or they can be open enough to sit down and talk to us and work with us and see that we want exactly the same things they want for whichever entity it is, the school district, the city, whatever. So, I'm not bragging on myself. I have a great team, but we have not seen that type of leadership from my opponent, and so I'll just go this far to say you need me in that seat in Austin.
Thank you so much for that rundown. And I want to, we talk about HG 94 as a flippable district, and Tenderholt, as we know, is an extremist. What do you think makes Arlington ready to flip? And what do you see as like the moment and the movement that we are seeing right now, and how that aids in flipping this district?
Well, the moment needs to be a movement and continue to be a movement. I'm optimistic that what we're seeing, what we've seen since the murder of Mr. Floyd, is a movement and not just a moment. I am optimistic because I see so much work continuing to be done, even though many of the protests have eased up. I see the work. I see the groups forming in minority communities, saying, hey, time out for this. Let's support our own. Let's get together and do the work and fight for what we deserve as citizens of the United States, as citizens of Texas, as citizens of whatever city they live in. So one thing we are seeing in House District 94 is an influx of transplants and new residents, and the ethnicity spans the gamut, and so that gives us some hope that we've got new voters in here. We've got to get them registered, and we've got to get them to the polls. So the ethnicity numbers are changing in this district. The consciousness of folks is changing. People are waking up. I've always complained that all these registered voters and people don't vote, and sometimes I get upset and go, we don't need to register another person. We just need to go get the registered people and bring them out to vote. But again, people there seems to be an awakening, and I hope people will not have short memories and forget what woke them up. And I think what woke many folks up was the murder of George Floyd. And so I don't want people to forget that ever, and especially not between now and November. We've got to get y'all's president out of the White House. We've got to get Tony Tenderholt out of the State House, and we've got to get more Democrats in the Texas State House because of redistricting. Redistricting is a huge, huge, huge opportunity, and we can change the the face and the trajectory of this state if we can get Democrats into that House. And so we can draw fair lines that are fair for everyone. So, hope is not just a moment. It needs to continue to be a movement. And I'm going to be out here yelling and screaming and dragging people to the polls.
100%. What do you want? We have just a few, moments left together. What do you want folks to know about your campaign, and what is your ask of folks right now if they want to get involved?
Well, like most campaigns, we need volunteers and money. We are going to, we'll soon start a virtual town hall series, and we will soon begin a more robust phone bank effort. We're going to be identifying Democrats, making sure that everybody in that household is a Democrat registered to vote, and they know that Alisa Simmons wants to serve them in the state house. So just like every other candidate, volunteers and campaign contributions, because we've got to buy signs. I have staff, so TV commercials and all that stuff. So thank you for asking. But yes, that's what we need.
Wonderful. And what is, to kind of bring us home here, what is one thing that you're looking forward to right now?
I am looking forward to November. This is a lot. This is a lot of work, and campaigning takes a lot. And actually, it's fun. The only thing I hate doing is asking for money. I'm just the worst at it. But looking forward to November, and then January 1st when I'm sworn in and can get to Austin and get to work.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Alisa. We will post this everywhere so folks can rewatch if they would like. And thank you again for running.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.